I transmigrated into a story about a real and fake heiress, becoming the true heiress who was bullied relentlessly after being brought home. Unfortunately, the system glitched, and I ended up transmigrating as a little fool with the intellect of a 5-year-old. The fake heiress framed me for stealing a necklace, so I grabbed her hand. Sister's hand is so cold, let me warm it up for you. She froze. Then suddenly with reddened eyes put the necklace back around my neck. Idiot. Who asked you to care? My crazy brother wanted to take revenge on society, hugging my teddy bear. I looked at him with pleading eyes. Brother, I'm scared of thunder. After a long silence, he put down the blood-stained knife and clumsily covered my ears. If you're scared, then don't listen. Later, my sister braided my hair in different styles every day. My brother learned to bake cookies. And even my usually indifferent parents competed to read me fairy tales. Miss Nina. Please get out of the car, we've arrived. I groggily opened my eyes, the blinding sunlight making me instinctively raise my hand to shield them. Wait, why are my hands so small? System, what's going on? I frantically called out in my mind. Didn't you say I'd transmigrate as the real heiress of a wealthy family? Why have I turned into a child? Warning, unknown system error detected. The mechanical voice responded intermittently. Host's physical age locked at 18 years. But mental age, ZZZT, affected by interference, reduced to 5 years. ZZZT, attempting repairs. The butler pushed me impatiently. Miss Nina, don't keep the master and mistress waiting. I stumbled up the marble steps. Under the crystal chandelier, 3 figures looked down at me coldly. Is this the girl they found in the countryside? The young woman in the white dress tilted her head to examine me. Why does she look like a silly goose, Winnie? The beautiful woman chided softly while gently adjusting her collar. I mustered the courage to reach out. Mom, she took half a step back, wiping her fingertips that had touched me with a handkerchief. The banquet hall buzzed with clinking glasses and lively chatter. Father gave a brief speech. Today, I've invited everyone here to formally introduce our James family's biological daughter, Nina James. Although she grew up in the countryside, she still carries the blood of the James family. The guests' eyes turned toward me in unison, some curious, some pitying, but most just there for the spectacle. My fingers unconsciously twisted the napkin into a tight knot. Nina, say hello to everyone, Mother said with a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. I stood up, the chair screeching loudly. Hello everyone, I'm Nina. My voice was as quiet as a mosquito's hum. Louder. We can't hear you. My father frowned. I'm Nina. I suddenly raised my voice but bit my tongue in nervousness. Ow. Someone among the guests snickered. My face burned, tears welling up in my eyes. How embarrassing. I heard Winnie whisper to Mother, it would have been better if she hadn't come back. Mother patted her hand reassuringly. I felt at a loss and could only bury myself in eating, when suddenly Winnie's shriek interrupted. My sapphire necklace is gone. She pointed at me. She was the only one who came near me just now. When the maid pulled the necklace from my pocket, Father's face turned ashen. Neil, it wasn't me, I sobbed uncontrollably. But then I saw a young man in black leaning against the railing of the spiral staircase, smiling faintly. Charles, the most dangerous villain in the book. Winnie lifted her chin proudly. Suddenly, I grabbed her cold hand. Your hands are so cold. Sister, let me warm them. She froze instantly. The guests gasped. Mother knocked over the red wine glass. Father's scolding stuck in his throat. Winnie's eyes were red as she roughly slipped the necklace back around my neck. Idiot, who asked for your concern? As she turned and ran away, I heard Charles's glass clink against the edge of the table. How interesting. He licked the wine stain from his lips, like a beast discovering a new toy. The door at the end of the hallway was forbidden territory in James's house. Even Winnie didn't dare to enter Father's study without permission. I crouched outside the door, tilting my head to peer at the light seeping through the crack. Want to go in? Charles's voice suddenly came from behind me. I was so scared that I fell back onto the ground. Looking up at him, he stood against the light. The cuffs of his black shirt rolled up, revealing several intersecting faint scars on his wrist, as if repeatedly scratched by something sharp. Brother, I called him softly. He lowered his gaze to stare at me, then suddenly bent down, grabbed the back of my collar to lift me up, and with his other hand, twisted open the study door. Go in. He gave me a gentle push, and I stumbled into the study. The door clicked shut behind me. The study was dark, with only a sliver of moonlight filtering through the floor-to-ceiling window. Fumbling for the desk lamp, I turned it on and noticed several torn photographs scattered in the corner, family portraits, but with pieces missing. I stood on tiptoe, leaning over the desk to start assembling it. In the photo, the young father looked stern and indifferent, the mother elegant yet distant, with little Charles standing stiffly in the middle, his lips pressed tightly together as if he couldn't even be bothered to fake a smile. The bottom right corner of the photo bore a date, the very year Winnie first came to James's house. Big brother didn't smile much when he was little either, I muttered while piecing the fragments together. Just as I fitted the last piece, the study door suddenly burst open. Who gave you permission to come in here? Father's voice thundered down like lightning. Startled, I trembled and dropped the photo straight to the floor. I am sorry. I hunched my shoulders, tears welling up in my eyes. I didn't mean to. Father's face turned livid as he grabbed my arm roughly. On your knees. My legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the carpet. Who let you in here? Father demanded coldly. I lowered my head, fingers clutching the hem of my skirt. Silent. Speak. I came in by myself. I sobbed. I wanted to find Dad. Father's breath noticeably hitched. At that moment, the study door opened once again. Charles leaned against the doorframe, lazily glancing at me kneeling on the floor before turning his gaze to Father. What's got you so worked up? Your sister barged into the study without permission. Shouldn't she be punished? Father asked coldly. Charles chuckled softly, walked over, and bent down to pick up the reassembled family portrait from the floor. He stared at the photo for 2 seconds, then suddenly asked me, did you piece this together? I nodded, tears plopping onto the carpet. Charles stuffed the photo into his pocket, reached out, and hauled me up. All right, why bother arguing with an idiot? Father frowned. Charles was already pulling me outside, tossing back without turning his head. If you're going to punish someone, punish me too. I was the one who locked her in. In the hallway, Charles released my hand and asked coldly, why didn't you complain? I rubbed my knees and looked up at him. Brother, did you do it on purpose? He stared at me and suddenly sneered. You really are an idiot. Moonlight streamed in through the corridor window, casting its glow on half of his face. His gaze was icy, yet the corners of his mouth were tightly drawn, as if suppressing something. Do you know why I hate this house? He suddenly asked. I shook my head. The night Winnie arrived, my mother held her and cried all night, he said softly, almost as if speaking to himself. I stood outside the door, listening to her repeat over and over, Mom will take good care of you from now on. His fingers unconsciously rubbed the scar on his wrist. On my 12th birthday, they held an art exhibition for Winnie. He tugged at the corner of his mouth. I sat in the empty dining room until 10 at night before the nanny remembered to ask if I was hungry. The cake she brought was leftover from Winnie's meal the day before. I blinked and suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Brother, can I celebrate your birthday? Charles froze for a moment. The next second, he shook off my hand and walked away without looking back. But his retreating figure didn't seem quite so cold anymore. Nina, come here. Winnie stood at the doorway of the walk-in closet, holding a white dress, the one she wore for her first stage performance at age 10, with her initials embroidered on the collar. I trotted over and looked up at her. Sis, put this on. She threw the dress over with a cold expression. There's a family banquet tonight. Don't dress like a beggar. I held the dress without moving. This dress was too small for me now. But for 10-year-old Winnie, it would have been just right. What are you staring at? Her voice suddenly rose sharply. If you don't want to wear it, get the hell back to your countryside hometown. I shuddered in fright from her. Winnie's fingers clenched until they turned white. Of course she was afraid that I, the true heiress, would take away everything she had so carefully maintained. When Winnie was 6 years old, her biological mother, Mrs. James's closest best friend, leaped from the 20th floor of a hotel. After that day, she was taken to James's home. Mrs. James held her and cried all night, promising to treat her as her own daughter, but she knew she was just a replacement for Mrs. James's best friend, whom she couldn't save, and a replacement for the void in James's family that needed a perfect daughter. So she practiced piano frantically, learned painting, and always ranked first in exams. Only this way could she avoid being sent away. In the banquet hall, I wore an overly tight dress, looking all crumpled. Is this James family's newly found daughter? The guests whispered among themselves. Why does she seem a bit slow? They say she grew up in the countryside and has some mental issues. Her clothes are shabby too, nowhere near as good as Miss James's. Winnie stood beside me, her back straight as a rod. She was wearing the latest haute couture today, her diamond earring sparkling under the lights. "Nina." She suddenly raised her voice, gentle as a caring older sister. "Say hello to everyone." I twisted my fingers together and whispered, "Hello." The guests exchanged glances, and someone chuckled softly. "Speak up," Winnie encouraged me. "Don't be shy." I took a deep breath, suddenly grabbed her arm, and exclaimed loudly, "Sister is a star. I'm the little star's shadow." The entire room fell silent instantly. Winnie froze. Pfft. A soft chuckle came from the corner. Charles had arrived unnoticed and was leaning against the champagne table, swirling a glass of wine in his hand. "Shadow." He sauntered over, his gaze sweeping between me and Winnie. "Even a shadow is better than a fake like you." Winnie's face instantly turned pale. "Charles," she gritted her teeth. "What do you mean by that?" My brother ignored her, bending down to lean closer to me. He tugged at my oversized collar and asked, "Who dressed you in this rag?" I pointed at Winnie. "Big sister gave it to me." Charles straightened up, glaring coldly at Winnie. "You certainly know how to pick clothes." Winnie clenched her fists. "None of your business." "It's none of my business," Charles chuckled. But, suddenly, he reached out, yanked the bow off my dress, and casually tossed it to the ground. "Next time I catch you bullying her." His voice was soft, yet it made Winnie instantly stiffen her spine. "I'll burn all those precious paintings of yours." The banquet ended on a sour note. I sat on the garden swing, kicking my legs as I gazed at the stars. Footsteps approached from behind. "Happy now?" Winnie asked coldly. I turned to look at her. "Sis." She stood under the moonlight, her eyes red as if she'd been crying. "Stop pretending." She gritted her teeth. "You're not actually stupid, are you?" I tilted my head. "What's a fool?" Winnie stared at me for a long time, then suddenly crouched down and hugged me tightly. Her shoulders were trembling. "Why?" Her voice choked with sobs. "Why is it that even you have someone to protect you?" I froze for a moment, then slowly reached out and patted her back. "Don't cry, sister," I whispered. "I'll share half my stars with you." In the middle of the night, I was startled awake by thunder. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled outside the window, while the heavy rain pounded against the glass like countless tiny stones. I shivered under the blanket. 5-year-old Nina was terrified of thunderstorms. Another bolt of lightning struck, and with a scream, I leaped out of bed barefoot, clutching my pillow as I dashed toward the door. The hallway was pitch black, save for a thin sliver of light seeping from beneath Charles's door at the far end. I ran over and turned the doorknob without thinking. "Bro," the words caught in my throat. Charles was sitting on the edge of the bed, holding a utility knife with blood on its blade. A fresh wound on the inside of his wrist was bleeding. Our eyes met. Thunder rumbled. "Get out," he said hoarsely. I stood frozen in place, tears pattering down. "Brother is bleeding. I told you to get lost." He suddenly erupted in rage, slamming the knife against the wall, trembling with fear. I didn't run. Instead, I slowly inched forward and offered him the pillow clutched in my arms. "Brother, you can hug my pillow." Charles stared at me with terrifying intensity. I climbed onto his bed with sniffles, wiping the blood from his wrist with my pajama sleeve. "Pain, pain, go away." His hand suddenly gripped the back of my neck, squeezing so hard it felt like my bones might shatter. "Nina, are you really this stupid?" I nodded tearfully. Thunder rumbled again, and I seized the chance to bury myself in his arms, clinging tightly to his waist. "The thunder is so scary." Charles froze stiff. A long time passed, so long I thought he might throw me out, when suddenly he released his grip. "Don't move around." He got up to fetch the first aid kit, roughly disinfecting his wound before slapping on a bandage. I knelt on the bed, staring at the crisscrossing old and new scars on his wrist, and suddenly said, "Brother, don't die." Charles froze mid-motion. "You'd be happy if I died, wouldn't you?" he sneered. "One less person to bully you." I shook my head, crawled over, and tugged at his sleeve. "If brother dies, no one will celebrate my birthday anymore." He stared at me for a long time, then suddenly reached out to turn off the lamp. "Sleep." In the darkness, I felt him lie down on the other side of the bed, keeping his distance from me. Another flash of lightning streaked across the sky, and I immediately rolled over, clinging to him like an octopus. "Nina, brother is so warm," I murmured softly, burying my face in his chest. Charles took a deep breath and ultimately didn't push me away. Half asleep, I heard him whisper, "Why doesn't anyone want me?" The whisper was almost drowned out by the sound of rain. Drowsily, I reached out and patted his face. I want my brother. Charles didn't speak, but when I woke up the next morning, I found my hand clasped tightly in his palm. Recently, Jane's household has become quite different. The change began on that rainy night. It was the first time Father found me curled up in the corner of the piano room, drawing a family portrait, with crayons on scrap paper, 5 crooked stick figures holding hands, with a rainbow sketched in the sky. He stared at the drawing for a long time before suddenly saying, "Tomorrow, I'll have the butler buy you a new set of colored pencils." My mother discovered me one early morning, tiptoeing to water the lilies in the living room, only to knock over the vase. She instinctively raised her hand but froze when she saw me cowering in fear. "Never mind," she withdrew her hand, her voice hoarse. "Let the maid do it next time." These subtle changes seeped into the frozen earth like spring rain. At the breakfast table, Mother would fry an extra soft-boiled egg and gently push it toward me. "Nina, eat more." Father still wore a stern expression, but occasionally he would pause while I was drawing, staring at those crooked lines for a long time. The biggest change was Charles. He started allowing me into his room, though he would still say coldly, "Don't touch my things." Rainy days would, coincidentally, find him waiting impatiently with an umbrella at my classroom door. One night, I even sneaked into the kitchen to grab a snack when I was starving, only to find a note on the fridge. "Milk is warming in the microwave." Only Winnie's gaze toward me grew colder by the day. "Nina, come try this." Mother held up a pale yellow little dress against me, which she had personally picked out at the mall yesterday. Winnie stood at the top of the stairs, her nails digging into her palms. That was supposed to be the day Mother had promised to take her shopping for graduation dresses. "Mom," she said softly, "what about my dress?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Winnie." Her mother suddenly snapped out of her thoughts. "Shall I ask Secretary Wong to accompany you instead? Nina just arrived, and most of her clothes don't fit well." Winnie smiled, radiantly beautiful. "It's all right, I understand." As she turned, her skirt swept over the photo frame on the coffee table. It was a picture of her winning last year's piano competition. Now the glass lay shattered across the floor, just like something else, silently cracking apart. A week before Winnie's birthday, I was squatting in the garden digging soil. "What are you doing?" Charles's voice came from above. I looked up, squinting against the sunlight, planting stars. He crouched down, unconcerned about the dirt staining his black suit pants. "What's this?" I mysteriously opened my palm. Several colorful glass marbles, sparkling brightly in the sunlight. "Sister likes shiny things," I whispered. "I want to grow them and give them to her as a birthday gift." Charles stared at me for a long time, then suddenly flicked my forehead. "Silly." But he didn't stop me, and even helped me dig in the dirt. Meanwhile, our parents murmured on the terrace not far away. The doctor said Nina's intellectual disability might be post-traumatic stress. Father's voice was uncharacteristically tense. "If we'd found her sooner." "Stop," Mother cut him off. But I saw her grip tighten on the railing, her knuckles turning white. Winnie stood behind the screen door, the birthday invitation crumpled in her hand. Winnie's birthday party was even livelier than I'd imagined. Under the crystal chandelier, the entire banquet hall was decorated with a starry sky theme. Silver blue balloons floated near the ceiling, as if the Milky Way had truly been brought indoors. I hid in the corner, clutching tightly to the gift I had prepared. A crayon-drawn crown, covered haphazardly with glitter. "What are you doing here?" Winnie stood before me at some point. Today, she wore a starry blue evening gown, her hair elegantly pinned up, adorned with a real diamond tiara. "Happy birthday, sis." I held up the drawing. "I made you a crown." She stared at the paper for 2 seconds, then suddenly sneered. "Who wants your stupid piece of paper?" The banquet officially began as Mr. and Mrs. James stood on stage to give their speech. "Thank you all for coming to Winnie's birthday party," Mother said gently, wrapping an arm around Winnie's shoulders. "Our daughter turns 20 today." I stood at the back of the crowd, tiptoeing to see. "Hey," someone poked my arm, "aren't you going to give a gift?" I turned and saw a girl in a pink dress winking at me. "I heard you're the real heiress the James family just found. How did you end up so miserable?" Her voice wasn't quiet, and several people nearby turned their heads, their eyes filled with amusement. I clutched the painting in my arms tightly. Ivy prepared a gift." "What gift?" Could it possibly be that scrap of paper in your hands? The girl in the pink dress laughed exaggeratedly. Winnie's gift is a limited edition Hermes. Yours is just too shabby. A few light chuckles rose from the surroundings. My fingers unconsciously tugged at the hem of my skirt when suddenly, a cold voice spoke. Had enough. Charles appeared behind me at some point, holding a champagne glass. His gaze dark and menacing as he stared at the girl in the pink dress. Charles. The girl in the pink dress turned pale. My sister's painting, he said slowly, is worth more than your life. The room fell completely silent. Summoning my courage, I trotted up to the stage and handed the painting to Winnie. Sister, this is for you. Winnie didn't take it. Nina, she said softly, you did this on purpose, didn't you? I stared at her blankly. What? Playing dumb, pretending to be weak while actually being strong. Her voice began to tremble, first buttering up Charles, then humiliating me in public. You've won. Are you satisfied? Enough. Winnie suddenly screamed, knocking the painting out of my hands. How dare you treat me like this? The drawing paper fluttered to the ground, trampled under her high heels. Winnie, her mother exclaimed, trying to comfort her. But she shoved her away. How dare you treat me like this? With reddened eyes, she pointed at me. She doesn't have to do anything, just acts crazy and stupid, and gets everyone's favor. And me, I've struggled for 20 years, only to hear you say, sorry, forget it. Mother tried to pull her. Winnie, it's not like that. Then what is it like? Winnie shook off her mother's hand. Do you even know what day it is today? She violently tore off the crown from her head and threw it to the ground. It's the anniversary of my birth mother's death. Glass beads scattered from the painting, tinkling as they rolled across the floor. I crouched down to pick it up when suddenly Charles yanked me to my feet. Winnie, his voice was as cold as ice. What you've always hated isn't Nina. What you hate is that she achieved something you couldn't in 20 years, bringing warmth to this family. Winnie froze in place as if struck by lightning, seizing the opportunity. I broke free from my brother's grip and ran over to grab her. Sis, I can share my crown with you. She shoved me away violently. Get lost. Staggering backward, I collided into Charles's arms. He held me with one arm while picking up the drawing from the ground with his other hand, carefully wiping it clean. Let's go. He covered my eyes. This lousy banquet doesn't deserve your gift. After the banquet, Winnie was like a cat with its tail stepped on. She refused to eat at the same table as me and would often spill my milk, not even a single word to me. I was deeply saddened by this and tried everything to make her happy, but she always walked away coldly, so when she called me on her own, I was especially happy and responded, Nina, come here. Winnie stood at the corner of the stairs, swinging a box of strawberry candies. My favorite kind. Sis, I trotted over, my eyes sparkling as I stared at the candy. Do me a favor. She bent down closer to me, her perfume mingling with a barely noticeable tremble. Go fetch Mom's blue velvet shawl from the storeroom. Okay, I nodded and reached for the candy, but she suddenly raised her arm. You'll get it when you come back. The warehouse at James's house is located at the westernmost end of the main building, usually locked, but today the door was slightly ajar. I pushed the door open, and a musty smell mixed with dust rushed toward me. Under the dim light, I could faintly see piles of old furniture and boxes stacked like mountains. Where is that shawl? I muttered softly, tiptoeing further inside. Suddenly, there was a click sound from behind. The door was locked. Sister, I ran back and knocked on the door. I haven't found the shawl yet. Outside, it was eerily quiet, with only Winnie's footsteps fading into the distance. The lights in the warehouse suddenly went out. Darkness surged in like a tide. I huddled in the corner, clutching my knees tightly. 5-year-old Nina was terrified of the dark, so much so that she forgot she was actually an adult who had transmigrated into a book. Is anyone there? My voice trembled with tears. Brother, Dad, no response. Only the rustling sound of mice came from the corner. I have a fever, my forehead burns, my vision blurs, and in my daze, I seem to see 6-year-old Winnie locked here too. It was her first month at James's house. Punished for breaking a vase. Don't be afraid of the dark, sis. I whispered to the little girl in my hallucination, I'll stay with you. I don't know how long it had been when suddenly hurried footsteps came from outside the door. Nina, it was Winnie's voice, but unlike usual, it carried a trembling that seemed torn apart. The sound of the key turning in the lock echoed 3 times before it finally clicked. In the harsh light, I saw her pale face and smudged mascara. Idiot, who said you could sleep here? She rushed in and yanked me Her nails digging into my arm, my burning forehead pressed against the back of her hand. Your hand feels so cold, sis. Winnie suddenly froze. She looked at my feverishly flushed face, then turned her gaze to the corner of the room, where I had drawn crooked little stick figures with chalk. Two little girls holding hands, with the words, sister and Anan, scrawled above their heads. Her tears fell onto my face, hotter than the fever burning my skin. Later, I heard that Winnie had rushed over after hearing the housekeeper say, the warehouse wiring is old. Last time, it nearly suffocated a stray cat. As she carried me through the garden, she bumped into Charles, who had come running upon hearing the news. Move aside. Her voice was hoarse. Charles didn't budge, his gaze fixed on my flushed face. You did this. Winnie's tears were still streaming, yet a cold smile curled at the corner of her lips. So what if I did? Are you going to avenge your little fool? Unexpectedly, Charles stepped aside to let her pass. She's running a high fever, he said calmly. Every second you delay is murder. Winnie staggered back as if stabbed, nearly falling into the rose bushes. I woke up in the middle of the night. The hospital's fluorescent light stung my eyes, and 4 dripped into my left hand while my right was tightly gripped. Winnie had fallen asleep by the bed, tear droplets still clinging to her lashes. The box of strawberry candies sat on the nightstand, already opened. I twitched my fingers slightly, and she woke with a start. Does it still hurt? I shook my head, unwrapped a candy, and slipped it into her mouth. It's sweet, eat it and you won't cry anymore. Winnie held the candy in her mouth, then suddenly buried her face in my hospital gown, her shoulders trembling like a butterfly caught in a storm. I'm sorry. Ever since the warehouse incident, I've been afraid of the dark. Not the coquettish fear of a 5-year-old Nina, but a genuine terror that jolts me awake screaming from nightmares. The first episode happened at 3 in the morning. I dreamed I was locked in the warehouse again, with something gnawing at my toes in the darkness. When I woke up, my pajamas were soaked in cold sweat, my throat burned with pain. I had actually been screaming. The door was flung open. Charles stood at the door, his hair disheveled, with traces of sleep-deprived irritation lingering in his eyes. He clutched a fruit knife in his hand, its blade gleaming coldly under the moonlight. We locked eyes for 3 seconds before he suddenly turned and walked away. 5 minutes later, he returned carrying a pillow and blanket, silently spreading them out on the carpet beside my bed. Sleep, he said with his back to me. I'm here. The next evening, Winnie arrived. She stood leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed, watching Charles read me a fairy tale. If Grimm's fairy tales could still be considered fairy tales when recited in his news broadcast tone. You have a board meeting tomorrow. She suddenly spoke up. I'll take the night shift. Charles didn't even look up. No need. You managed to turn Little Red Riding Hood into a crime scene, Winnie sneered. Do you want her nightmares to escalate into psychosis? Charles closed the book and stood up, glancing at Winnie's hand hidden behind her back where a corner of pink wrapping paper peeked out. Strawberry candy. The corner of his mouth twitched as he tossed the book to her. Don't feed her too much, it'll rot her teeth. The parents discovered this night watch rotation system on a stormy night. The thunder was so loud that night, I got scared and crawled into Winnie's bed. She stiffened like a board, yet instinctively patted my back when I trembled. When Charles pushed the door open, this was the scene he saw, Winnie holding me clinging to her arm. The two of us huddled on the child's bed like a pair of rain-soaked quails. He turned to leave but was stopped by Winnie. Hey, your sister keeps saying she's cold. In the end, the 3 of us squeezed onto the makeshift bed. I slept in the middle, with Winnie clutching my left hand and Charles holding my right. Doesn't it feel like summer camp when we were kids? I asked drowsily. Winnie froze. You remember? Of course I don't. But at 2 a.m., when my parents returned from their social engagement and pushed open the door to the children's room to see this scene, my mother's bag fell to the floor with a thud. You too, my father's voice trembled uncharacteristically. Under the moonlight, 3 heads turned simultaneously. Charles's hair tousled into a bird's nest from sleep. Winnie's eyeliner smudged into panda eyes, and crumbs of strawberry candy still clinging to the corner of my mouth. Get out, Charles whispered, covering my ears with his hands. Father didn't move. His gaze swept over the nightstand, cluttered with fairy tale books brought by Winnie, Charles's finance magazines, and my clumsily drawn family portrait. Mother suddenly crouched down, her fingers trembling as they brushed Winnie's hair. Winnie. The last time you asked me to tuck you in was when you were 6. Winnie abruptly turned her face away, At breakfast the next morning, father unexpectedly poured me a glass of milk. Last night, he weighed his words carefully. Did you sleep well? I bit into my toast and nodded. With brother and sister here, I'm not afraid of thunder. Across the dining table, Winnie's fork scraped against the porcelain plate, making a harsh sound. Without looking up, Charles placed a fried egg on my plate. Eat yours. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows when mother suddenly said, next month, shall we all go to Switzerland? Winnie dropped her fork. Whatever. Charles wiped his mouth, then lightly pinched the back of my neck as he stood up. I knew. This was his way of showing satisfaction. The snow fell heavily in Switzerland. Outside our wooden cabin, the snow had piled up past our knees. Winnie crouched in front of the fireplace tying my scarf, her nimble fingers forming a perfect bow. Her 10th check on my warmth measures this week, sis. I popped a strawberry candy into her mouth. Sweet. She glared at me but obediently kept it between her lips. Only fools eat something this sweet. Across the fireplace, Charles was murmuring with father. Since the trip began, they'd bump into each other daily for these chats. About the company, stocks, occasionally whether I'd kicked off the blankets last night. Mother walked over carrying hot cocoa when suddenly her foot slipped. Watch out. Instinctively, I threw myself forward to cushion her fall, only for the back of my head to hit the corner of the table with a loud thud. Amidst the excruciating pain, I heard the system's long-absent voice. Ding. Task completion rate 98%. Final correction program initiating. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital bed with bandages wrapped around my head. My mother sat by the bed, her eyes swollen like walnuts. Seeing me awake, she suddenly grabbed my hand. Nina, Mom is so sorry. It was as if this sentence flipped some kind of switch, choking back tears. She told me the truth. Losing me back then was no accident. She and my father had given me away as collateral to some big shot to save the nearly bankrupt James family. Later, when the big boss got into trouble and they thought I was dead, they adopted Winnie. Her biological mother's death was also related to that deal. We thought that as long as we treated Winnie well, we could atone. The hospital room door suddenly swung open. Winnie stood there, the half-peeled apple in her hand falling to the ground. What am I then? Her voice trembled. A pardon note. Final correction initiated. The system's mechanical voice roared in my mind. In an instant, all memories flooded in. I was never a transmigrator, but rather a repair program, selected by the system. This world was on the verge of collapse due to the twisted love of parents, and someone needed to recalibrate it with pure emotions. I watched Winnie screaming as she rushed toward our mother, saw Charles punching the wall, then suddenly threw off the blankets and ran over barefoot, grabbing one in each hand. Brother, sister, let's go see the aurora. Tears still streaked Winnie's face. Are you stupid? It's 3 a.m. I booked the hot spring observation deck, Charles suddenly said, his voice hoarse. We can see the stars. Winnie sat by the pool hugging her knees and suddenly said, my mom took her own life. Charles closed his eyes. I know, she left a suicide note, saying she'd trade her life for the James family's protection over me. Snowflakes fell on our clasped hands, melting quickly into water. Ding. Correction complete. The system's voice grew fainter. All erroneous emotional lines have been reset. Gazing at the sudden burst of auroras in the night sky, I softly asked, System, what exactly are you? In a daze, I seemed to hear a faint chuckle. I am the first star you drew for Winnie. On the day of returning home, Father announced at the airport the dissolution of the James Group, dividing all assets into 3 trust funds. All these years, he hugged Charles for the first time. Dad is sorry. Mother took Winnie's hand and visited the cemetery, returning with both their eyes red. As for me, I sat on the swing in our new home, swinging my legs while eating strawberry candy. Charles was handling documents for the new company in the study, while Winnie attempted to bake cookies in the kitchen, though they'd most likely end up burnt. Big bro, big sis, I held up my crayon drawing. Look at our new family portrait. Winnie rushed out to snatch the drawing. Why'd you draw my eyes so big? Charles leaned against the doorframe, sunlight glinting in his smiling eyes. Fool, this time, remember to draw me handsomely. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am the long-lost true heiress of the wealthiest family. On the day my biological brother brought me home, the adopted daughter pushed me to the ground because my hands were dirty with mud. Before I could even retaliate, my biological mother slapped her twice. Who do you think you are? A mere adopted daughter daring to hit my own flesh and blood. Wow, this mom is so cool. I like her. I've decided that once I return to this family, I'm never leaving again. I'm the long-lost daughter of the wealthiest man, separated for 20 years, when my biological brother Kevin found me. I was busy playing with a handful of clay, waving a fresh paternity test. He excitedly hugged me. Sarah, you are my biological sister. I knew I wasn't mistaken. Come with me, big brother will take you home. I happen to have important matters to attend to, and going to the billionaire's family could kill two birds with one stone. Returning to acknowledge the family and incidentally checking the happiness index would be a perfect arrangement. Thus, in a daze, I followed Kevin onto the car heading home. Kevin kept explaining the family situation to me along the way. Afraid of missing even the slightest detail, he said the one thing the family never lacks is money, with businesses spanning multiple sectors like clothing, food, housing, and transportation. All major and minor family matters are decided by Mom, who also holds a notable position in the business circle. No matter how you hear it, it feels like he's blatantly flaunting wealth and praising his mom in every possible way. In our family, apart from Mom and Dad, there's just your brother, me. The rest are the housekeeper auntie who takes care of our daily needs and the driver. Oh, and there's also a daughter of Dad's friend staying with us, but she's not important. Just pretend she doesn't exist. I frowned slightly, having heard that the first step for a real heiress returning home often involves facing some initial challenges. Life in a billionaire's family is never easy, is it? Glancing at my clothes, there still seemed to be some mud stains that weren't completely cleaned off. Walking through the door in this muddy, dirt-covered outfit, what exactly awaits me? At this thought, I couldn't help but feel a faint sense of anticipation. From what I know, the adopted daughter in that household has quite the background. As soon as I entered, a charming girl dressed in designer brands came running toward me. She beamed with excitement as she rushed to Kevin. Brother Kevin, you're back. This must be Heidi, the adopted sister Kevin had mentioned. Adhering to the principle of not hitting a smiling face, after all, we still had to live under the same roof. A sweet smile played at the corners of my lips as I raised my hand to greet her. Hello, yet she instinctively took a step back and shoved me away with force. Caught off guard, I lost my balance and fell to the ground. My ankle was throbbing with pain. Brother Kevin, is she the new housekeeper? Ew, she's so dirty. Make her leave. Kevin rushed over to support me. His face filled with heartache as he looked at my swollen ankle, trembling with anger. Heidi, she's not the housekeeper, she's my sister Sarah. Please show her some respect. And also, you just pushed Sarah without any reason. Apologize to her right now. Heidi widened her eyes, looking me up and down with disdain. Little sister. Her, Kevin, you've only known her for a few days. Who knows if she's a fraud? Our family's door isn't open to just anyone who comes along. Kevin helped me up and shielded me by his side, his gaze sharp. She's my biological sister. I don't hit women, but if you don't apologize today, don't blame me for being impolite. Heidi, provoked by his shout, grew even more defiant. She stomped her foot indignantly. Brother Kevin, how dare you scold me for her sake? I'm telling Dad. What kind of logic is this? She was the one being rude first. And now she's turning the tables on me. I instantly felt annoyed. Growing up, even my foster father never dared to lay a hand on me. Before I left, my foster father told me it's okay to act out sometimes. No need to tolerate everything. It fits the persona I'm supposed to maintain. Nothing can't be solved with a good fight. I had just steadied myself, rolling up my sleeves to slap her. A furious figure swiftly cut in front of me. Before I could react, Heidi had already taken 2 slaps to the face. Who do you think you are? A mere adopted daughter daring to hit my own flesh and blood. Own flesh and blood. Is this really my biological mother, connected to me by blood? That agile figure and swift, precise movements were just too cool, even more impressive than my adoptive father. I could barely contain myself from clapping and cheering. Then I blurted out, Mom, yes. She responded instantly, her face instantly lighting up with a loving smile, as if the fierce heroine from just now was never her. She placed both hands on my shoulders, looking me up and down several times. Then she pulled me into a tight embrace, her eyes brimming with tears. Sarah, this is clearly my own daughter. My dear, I've searched for you so desperately. You've suffered so much all these years. My dear, Don't worry, Mom will make it up to you from now on. Kevin said I went missing when I was 3 years old. All these years, Mom, and he never gave up searching for me. Finally, heaven rewards the faithful. I was found and raised by my foster father. My foster father was a workaholic and a lifelong bachelor. From as far back as I can remember, I never knew what a mother's love felt like. I used to envy my classmates when they'd talk about, my mom says, and I envied those who had their mothers pick them up or drop them off at school. Suddenly having a biological mother appear now feels quite surreal. Perhaps it's the bond of blood, but I don't feel any resistance toward her. On the contrary, my heart feels warm. Standing nearby, Kevin turned away to secretly wipe his eyes upon seeing this scene. I patted my mother's back and comforted her with a smile, saying, Mom, brother, I'm back. Thank you for never giving up on finding me. Kevin held me and Mom in his arms, saying excitedly, it's good to have you back. It's good to have you back. From now on, our family will never be separated again. This scene infuriated Heidi, whose face twisted in anger as she kept muttering to herself. You're all bullying me. I'm going to tell Dad. My mom laughed when she heard this. She pinched Heidi's chin and said with disdain, oh, really? Then try and see who in this family actually has the final say. Just then, there was a noise at the door. Before anyone appeared, a voice was heard. I'm back. Heidi heard the noise and rushed excitedly to greet him, but before leaving, she gave me a haughty humph. Daddy's back. You're in for it later. Heidi tearfully threw herself into Frank's arms. Dad, you're finally back. Mom and my brothers have been bullying me. Frank stared at Heidi for a long moment. Heidi, what happened to your face? Who hit you? Come on, let's get some medicine on it. If it gets worse, it won't look good. He was about to take Heidi to find the first aid kit but was stopped by the 3 people in front of him. Heidi lowered her head, sniffling without saying a word. My mother crossed her arms and glared at the 2 of them with disdain. I hit her. Kevin mirrored my mother's posture exactly. I looked at the expressions of these 2 people, completely baffled, and decisively chose to remain strategically silent. Kevin spoke up, his tone cold. Dad, this is my biological sister, Sarah. She just came home today. As soon as the words fell, Frank quickly pushed Heidi aside and hurried over to me in small, quick steps. He squinted his eyes, looking even weirder than the subway grandpa squinting, sizing me up from head to toe. Then, with a face full of disgust and conflict, this is my daughter, really, or just some gold digger who popped up out of nowhere? And also, why are you all ganging up on Heidi? Don't you know how tragic her background is? Huh, what? I thought to myself, what kind of twisted logic is this? What does Heidi's pitiful background have to do with me? It's not like I'm the one who made her life miserable. Haven't I been more pitiful? Separated from my mother for 20 years, I was left speechless by his reaction and somewhat at a loss. Sending a silent plea for help to Kevin, Kevin shielded me behind him, giving me a reassuring look. Sarah, don't be afraid. Just watch how Mom handles this. Before I could process what he meant, my mom exploded over there. She grabbed a baseball bat and started whacking Frank wildly, shouting righteously, Frank, did a donkey kick your brain today or did you forget to take your meds? What gold digger? Sarah was personally arranged by Kevin for the paternity test. Even without a DNA test, anyone with half a brain can tell she's my daughter just by looking at her face. And here you are, not only failing to care about your own daughter's return but even siding with outsiders. Seems like you've gone 3 days without a beating and now you're tearing the roof tiles off. I stared at this scene, my mouth hanging open wide enough to fit 2 tea eggs. Kevin, however, looked completely unfazed and signaled for me not to take it to heart. Frank started begging for mercy in no time, putting on such a pitiful act of, don't bully me, master, that it was impossible not to laugh. But I didn't miss the flash of ruthlessness when he lowered his head or the venom in Heidi's eyes. What happened next only confirmed my suspicions. These 2 weren't as simple as they appeared on the surface. After updating my adoptive father about the situation at home that night, I went to grab something to eat. I heard rustling sounds coming from the doorway. Peering through the peephole, I saw this person truly couldn't hold back anymore. When going downstairs, I deliberately didn't turn on the lights, pretending not to notice the object at my feet or the person hiding around the corner. My foot slipped, and I instinctively reached for the handrail. A sudden, unexpected push from behind sent me tumbling down the stairs. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Mom and Kevin looking anxious in the hospital room. Sarah, you're awake. How do you feel? Are you feeling any discomfort? You really scared me and Mom's eyes were red as she held me in her arms. Kevin remained relatively calm. Sarah, do you remember how you fell? I didn't answer but instead asked him. Where are Frank and Heidi? Their company said there's an emergency to handle, so they'll come later. I hesitated for a moment before speaking. Mom, brother, my fall wasn't an accident. It was intentional, both exclaimed in unison. What? I pulled up the surveillance footage on my phone. I was worried there might be conflict with Heidi after I just returned, so I installed a mini camera by the door as a precaution. The video clearly shows Heidi scattering something at my doorstep. When my foot slipped, she gave me a push from behind, causing me to fall. Mom and Kevin were furious after watching. Heidi is too wicked. We can't keep her at home anymore. She must move out. I held Mom's hand in return, looking serious. Mom, brother, listen to me. Heidi isn't as simple as she appears on the surface. Having her move out of the house is just the first step. She must also be removed from company affairs. This relates to another purpose of my return. But I can't disclose too much for now. Please understand. First, use the excuse that we don't get along to make her move out. Once I recover, I'll gradually take over her responsibilities at the company. There are hidden circumstances behind my disappearance back then. This matter is still under investigation, so everyone should keep it quiet to avoid alerting anyone prematurely. Mom and Kevin exchanged a glance, their expressions serious. In the end, they agreed with my approach. As soon as Heidi entered the hospital room, my mom slapped her twice, hard. Heidi, it was actually you who pushed Sarah down the stairs. From today on, you're moving out. Upon hearing this, Heidi's eyes welled up with tears. Mom, what are you saying? How could I have pushed Sarah? Kevin pulled up the video and threw it in front of her. To test the company's product performance, I previously installed a camera in the hallway. It clearly recorded you pushing Sarah. Heidi, the evidence is here. You can't deny it. I'm truly disappointed in you. You must reflect on this seriously. Once Sarah recovers from her injuries, you'll hand over all your current responsibilities to her. Heidi looked incredulous, her eyes bloodshot as she covered her face. How can you convict me based on just one video? Did you even discuss this with Dad? My mother brushed her sleeves. My company, my home. Do I need to ask for others' opinions to deal with someone? At that moment, Frank entered and, seeing the tense scene, asked in confusion, what's going on? Heidi, who hit your face? Heidi's tears fell down. Mom and brother are kicking me out of the house, and they even said they'll let Sarah take over my job. I can accept moving out, but why do they have to cut off my career too? Dad, isn't this too unfair? Why does everything revolve around Sarah now that she's back? Frank rubbed her hair. Don't be afraid, Daddy will stand up for you. It's just a little conflict between two kids. How serious can it be? There's no need to tear the family apart over something so trivial. Before he could finish speaking, I covered my face and started crying. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause so much trouble for the family as soon as I came back. I'd better leave. I'm afraid one day my legs will be crippled and my arms broken too. Woo-woo. My mother looked at me with heartache and quickly hugged me. Sarah, this is your home. We're not going anywhere. You'll stay with Mom from now on. After saying this, she raised her eyes to look at the two people opposite. Frank, Heidi must move out of the house. If you have any objections, you can leave with her. As for work matters, we'll discuss it after Sarah recovers and returns to the company. Seeing that my mother wouldn't budge, Frank's temper flared up. Fine, Heidi and I will move out. We won't be in the way of your perfect little family of 3 anymore. Heidi took advantage of everyone else being out and glared at me fiercely before leaving. Sarah, don't get too cocky. I won't let you off the hook. I raised an eyebrow and chuckled lightly. Be my guest. What's a little provocation like this? I'm actually afraid you won't make a move, after recovering from my injury. I was arranged to join the trading company where Heidi worked. To keep a low profile, I didn't enter the company as the Song family heiress but went through the regular internal referral process. On my first day, Heidi set up a series of traps for me. She had already tipped off the HR department in advance, assigning me as a sales assistant. My direct supervisor Simon is Heidi's loyal lapdog. He demanded I complete 50 customer requirement analyses within a single day, and insisted they must be richly illustrated with graphics, while forbidding me from utilizing any internal company resources for assistance. This is blatant torture, plain and simple. I immediately questioned him about the unreasonable workload assignment. pointing out that it would be difficult for an ordinary employee to complete it within a single day, yet he responded with a straight face, "Sarah, this is a test of your abilities, don't let me down, I only care about the results." Then I overheard him secretly calling Heidi in the stairwell, "Heidi, you can count on me to teach her a proper lesson." Hearing this, I sneered and immediately formed a plan in my mind. When it was time to clock out, I was about to leave but got caught by Simon. "Sarah, today's work must be done today. Have you finished the tasks assigned to you, leaving without completing them? Is this how you do things? What kind of work attitude is this? I don't care which back door you came through. If you can't get the job done, get out." During the rush hour after work, a crowd had gathered at the elevator, and clueless colleagues were standing by, watching the drama unfold. Just as everyone thought I would slink back to work overtime, I smiled instead. "Mr. Simon, it seems you didn't check your email or messages this afternoon, otherwise, how could you not know that I already sent you the report earlier today? Finish today's work today, is what you said, so please review the report and give me feedback today so I can make improvements and optimizations tomorrow. Additionally, I believe this report has reference value for other departments as well, so I've copied the relevant responsible parties on it. Mr. Simon, don't forget to check it later. Looking forward to your feedback. Bye-bye." Amidst everyone's stunned gazes, I squeezed into the elevator and left work with a flourish. During dinner, Kevin looked at me with concern. "Sarah, how was your day at the company? Who's the clueless one that assigned you that lousy job? Want me to step in and teach them a lesson for you?" My mom immediately perked up upon hearing this. "What happened, Sarah? Who bullied you at the company? Tell me, and I'll fire them to vent your anger." Seeing the two of them sitting there so seriously, I couldn't help but laugh. "Mom, brother, don't worry. It's all part of my plan, and besides, I've already solved it with my brother's help. Heidi just wants me to back down, but all her tricks are beneath contempt." Kevin remained frowning. "Sarah, based on what you said earlier, they must have bigger moves planned. You can't let your guard down." I shook his arm and cooed, "Bro, don't worry, playing the fool is my specialty. I'm just waiting for them to slip up and show their true colors." Simon replied to the email with a screen full of revision comments, clearly nitpicking for no reason. Everyone else's responses were uniformly along the lines of, "Great job, very valuable, thanks for sharing." What's more, he actually forgot to reply to me individually. Everyone else received his lengthy critiques. Finally, it was concluded with the company's rotating CEO Kevin's feedback. Reviewed, excellent, no further changes needed. After I thoroughly outmaneuvered him, Simon avoided me for a long time whenever we crossed paths. His expression was anything but natural, but I knew neither he nor Heidi would give up so easily. Sure enough, he took me with him after work that day. He said it was to accompany him in entertaining a client. Only when we arrived at the private room did I see Heidi was also there. The client, knowing she was the adopted daughter of the Song family and part of the company's management, treated her with great courtesy. But as Simon's assistant, I didn't receive such favorable treatment. During the dinner, the two clients kept urging me to drink. Out of politeness, I had 2 glasses. However, they became increasingly aggressive, seemingly determined not to stop until I was drunk. Heidi and Simon just watched from the sidelines, even joining in the pressure to drink. "Sarah, sincerity in business negotiations at the dinner table is measured by the wine in your glass. You're new here, so learn more from the seniors." That's right. Whether the contract gets signed depends on whether the beauty drinks or not. Only when we're all happily drunk can we continue discussing this collaboration. I slammed my glass upside down on the table with a loud clang and sneered, "Since you all enjoy urging others to drink so much, why don't you have a few rounds yourselves? Excuse me, but I won't be joining you. I'm leaving now." With that, I grabbed my bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. Not giving them any time to react, trying to get me drunk, not a chance. In the end, to keep the clients happy, it was Heidi and Simon who had to put on smiles and drink through 2 rounds. Hoist with his own petard, serves him right. The next day, Heidi and Simon stormed up to me in a huff. "Sarah, do you have any idea how much trouble you caused yesterday? How dare you openly offend a client at the dinner table? Sarah, if it weren't for Mr. Simon and me fighting to protect you, the client's complaint would probably have reached corporate headquarters by now." "Sarah, given the severity of your mistake this time, our department has decided to terminate your employment. Please go to HR to complete the necessary procedures." Before I could even voice my objection, a commotion erupted at the door. Kevin arrived, casting a sharp glance around with an imposing presence that commanded respect without anger. "Don't you all have work to do? What's the meaning of gathering here like this? Is this a marketplace?" Simon flatteredly ran up to him with an awkward smile. "Mr. Kevin, it was this little assistant who offended the client at last night's dinner. We were just about to deal with her." Kevin raised an eyebrow, his tone ambiguous. "Oh, is that so? As the person involved, why don't you tell everyone properly what happened last night?" He looked at me and gave me a look, signaling me to explain. Mr. Kevin, Mr. Simon and the client kept pressuring me to drink. I already said I couldn't handle it, but they still forced me. I couldn't take it anymore and left. I believe this kind of thing probably isn't the first time it's happened. You should conduct a thorough internal investigation. See if any other female colleagues have had similar experiences. Is getting people drunk to discuss business part of our company's culture? Probably not, expecting Kevin's appearance and my boldness. Simon nervously signaled Heidi with his eyes. Heidi put on a professional smile and affectionately linked arms with Kevin. "Brother Kevin, Mr. Simon is a veteran at the company and has worked tirelessly for performance. He was just trying to protect the client. Sarah just joined and isn't very familiar with client business yet. You can't blame her. She's still young after all. But one thing at a time. Although no substantial losses were incurred, the company still needs to make a statement. Otherwise it will be hard to convince everyone." Heidi's words were indeed clever. On the surface, she offended no one, but in reality, she was forcing Kevin to make an example of me. Kevin raised his hand to push her away, his tone icy. "Heidi, this is the company. Mind your manners and attitude. I've got a rough idea of the situation. Let's handle this by the book. Both sides share the blame." Simon failed to understand his team members, which is a management oversight. His quarterly bonus is revoked. If there are similar complaints again, he'll be dismissed. "Sarah, since you're not cut out for sales, you'll be transferred to the finance department as an assistant. There won't be any complicated socializing there." Overnight, Simon's financial prospects took a hit, and he was completely deflated. Heidi wanted to argue further, but Kevin stopped her with a glance. I hummed a tune while packing my things at my workstation when a message from Kevin popped up on my phone. "Sarah, how was it? What score would you give my performance just now?" I couldn't help but laugh and showered him with praise. "Flawless acting, impeccable performance. Big Brother is the best." This was what Kevin, Mom, and I had previously agreed upon, to send me into the finance department unexpectedly. This was also my sole purpose for entering the company. There. I should quickly find the clues I was looking for. I just didn't expect that the finance director Fiona was also bribed by Heidi. When I went to the finance office, she didn't even lift her head. She just coldly instructed, "Sort and paste the invoices on the desk one by one in the next 2 days, then initiate the reimbursement and payment process in the system. If you don't understand the process, check the tutorial yourself. I don't have time to teach you step by step." Pasting invoices is a technical task that can reveal subtle clues. During system registration, I noticed several large payments that didn't match the sales categories. "Manager, there are issues with these payments. I personally recommend temporarily withholding them to avoid causing losses for the company." Fiona looked impatient. "Just follow the procedure and apply for payment. A little assistant like you has no business meddling in operational matters. Do you really think you're the group auditor? Do you live by the Pacific Ocean? Why do you have to stick your nose into everything? Unbelievable." Without showing any reaction, I quietly gathered all the questionable documents and secretly photographed them for my adoptive father. For the next few days at work, I stopped contradicting her and simply did whatever she asked. A few days later, I received a reply from my adoptive father. These accounts indeed had issues. Quickly, I followed the trail of these materials and uncovered a chain of people behind the project. I compiled and packaged the evidence, then anonymously sent it to the group's audit department. A week later, the group's audit team sent personnel on site to review the company's accounts from the past 5 years. This move uncovered a large number of individuals involved in falsifying accounts and embezzling public funds, from top-level executives down to frontline sales staff. The amounts involved were enormous, causing a major stir within the group. After these individuals were apprehended, Heidi came to me. "Sarah, Was it you who tampered with the group audit project before? Do you know that your report has paralyzed multiple business lines of the company, making it impossible to advance many projects? I looked at her in confusion. Heidi, what are you talking about? I'm just a half-baked amateur who can't even understand a balance sheet every day. All I do is stick invoices, just stick invoices. What audit project report are you talking about? I don't get it, and I can't understand it either. By the way, why are you in such a hurry now? Could it be that you have a stake in all these projects behind the scenes? She was left speechless by my retort. Don't talk nonsense. How could I possibly be associated with those who harm the company's interests? I'm just worried about affecting the company's normal operations. Dad hasn't been able to rest properly for days because of this matter. I shrugged my shoulders and looked at her meaningfully. If it has nothing to do with you, then that's good. Since it's about removing pests from the company, there's nothing to hesitate about. If the position is understaffed, just hire more. Next time, remember to find people with clean backgrounds. Don't step into the same pitfall twice. The company laid off a large number of employees, and during this transition period, some positions were indeed overloaded. Some roles required one person to do the work of two, leading to widespread complaints in the office. Without reliable subordinates to handle tasks, many things had to be done personally. Heidi and the people behind her naturally couldn't sit still anymore. She took the opportunity to indirectly spread the word, implying in her words that I was the one who reported the previous audit. For a time, many colleagues harbored resentment toward me, creating obstacles for me in various situations. In the office, I was isolated, reimbursement documents were unclear, and work communication was refused. The most excessive incident was when they publicly pranked me at the company annual gala. That day, they locked me in the dressing room, causing me to completely miss my own performance. When I finally rushed back to the event, the host criticized me with cold words. Sarah, if you didn't want to perform, you shouldn't have signed up for the program. What's the meaning of canceling at the last minute? Do you have any idea how much extra work your personal issues have caused behind the scenes? The people below began whispering among themselves, casting disdainful glances my way. Heidi and Frank sat below, watching the drama unfold with amused smiles but saying nothing, pushing aside those blocking my way with force. I quickly walked to the center of the stage and cast my phone screen onto the main display. I snatched the microphone from the host's hand. Hello. Do I need to teach you the principle of not commenting without knowing the full picture, accusing me without distinguishing right from wrong? I'm really curious how much benefit you've received from them. The video clearly captured several colleagues conspiring in the hallway, documenting the entire process of their plan and actions to trap me in the dressing room. Heidi was also among those who appeared and showed their faces in the footage. Once the video was exposed, the scene erupted in an uproar. Heidi, do you have anything to explain? Bullying in the workplace at your age. Is this amusing to you? Heidi's face turned red and then pale as she kept repeating, I didn't. This is outright slander. Anyone with eyes could see the video couldn't be faked. Given her status as the adopted daughter of the Song family and Frank's presence, the administrative director stepped in to smooth things over. Sarah, this was probably just everyone trying to play a joke on you to bond. Don't take it to heart. Today is the company annual party. Do me a favor and let this matter rest. I ignored her, staring straight at Heidi and Frank. Frank couldn't save face anymore, his expression darkening as he angrily spoke. What nonsense! Is this really such a big deal that you have to make such a scene? Get down from there. Aren't you ashamed? Go back and think carefully about why it was you who got locked up and not anyone else. You don't usually get along well with your colleagues, and everyone just wanted to lighten the mood with you at the annual party. What's wrong with that? If you keep harping on this matter, you might as well pack up and go home. Stop embarrassing yourself here. Frank's words were the final nail in the coffin, completely shifting the blame onto me. Everyone present pointed fingers at me. Heidi's mouth curled up like a peacock spreading its tail. At that moment, the venue doors swung wide open. My mother's voice came through with overwhelming force. Let me see who dares to play workplace bullying here. Kevin, holding my mother's arm, slowly walked toward the main stage. He even deliberately made a show of winking at me, his whole demeanor screaming, see how cool your bro is. With an air of smugness, the host quickly and respectfully yielded the center position to my mother, bowing obsequiously as he handed her the microphone. Chairman, Mr. Kevin, what brings you here today? Having both of you grace the annual meeting of the trading company is truly inspiring for us employees. My mother let out a disdainful humph, took the microphone without even glancing at him. If I hadn't come today, I wouldn't have known how much my daughter has suffered here. The host, like everyone else, looked completely bewildered. Chairman, everyone here has been very kind to Miss Heidi. No one has mistreated her. Just now, this Sarah falsely accused Miss Heidi, and President Song also spoke up to stop it from below. Heidi sat on pins and needles, nervously tugging at Frank's sleeve. Frank soothingly patted the back of her hand and spoke to my mother. Madam, today is the annual gathering of the trading company. Since you've come all this way, why not sit down and enjoy the performance properly? My mother completely ignored him and announced on the spot, I'm not talking about Heidi, the fake, but my real daughter Sarah. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone gasped in shock. They were probably all recalling in their minds whether they had ever participated in making trouble for me. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, I walked up to my mother. Mom, brother, the family of 3 was the envy of everyone. Next, my mother announced a bombshell that left everyone stunned. Based on the audit results of the trading company and the 360-degree evaluation of the management team, I hereby announce, Frank and Heidi are hereby relieved of all their positions in the trading company, and all related matters will be handed over to Kevin. This isn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, but one made after careful consideration. Anyone who disagrees can pack their bags and leave with them. Amidst everyone's stunned silence, I left the venue with my mother and brother. I was happily enjoying the late-night snack my mom lovingly made at home when Kevin snatched the plate away from me. Sarah, we should have revealed your identity back then. Then you wouldn't have had to suffer their bullying. By the way, can you wrap up the investigation you were working on before? Any big moves coming next? You'd better give me a little heads up so I can arrange protection for you in advance. Otherwise, Mom and I will end up with heart attacks from all your surprises. Right, Mom? My mom nodded. Your brother is right. None of us can bear to lose you again. After pondering for a while, I finally spoke. Mom, brother, I've already sent all the information we gathered to my adoptive father. He said it was very useful. The arrest warrant application is currently in progress. I believe the police will take action very soon. When it comes to protection, Frank and Heidi might fight tooth and nail, risking everything in a desperate struggle. Make sure to bring bodyguards whenever you go out recently, and stay vigilant. My mother held Kevin's and my hands, her gaze earnest. Our family of 3 must stay safe and never be apart again. According to my adoptive father's investigation, I was actually abandoned by Frank. Heidi is the daughter of Frank and his first love. Back then, he was just a social climber. After marrying my mother, he tried to climb the social ladder but realized she wasn't the delicate flower he had imagined, and in the company, the decision-making power always circles back to my mom, who completely dominates him in every aspect. Men are ambitious by nature, and under this suffocating pressure, Frank devised a sinister plan. After making me disappear, he seized the opportunity to bring Heidi home under the guise of being the daughter of an old friend, all for the purpose of lying low with her later, gradually eroding my mom's company, and used my mother's company as a cover to achieve their hidden ambitions. Fortunately, I encountered my adoptive father on the way to being abducted. He was a police officer. At that time, the genetic database was not well established, and the interprovincial system was not fully interconnected. My family's social status was sensitive, so my mother and Kevin rarely appeared in public, limiting the information available, with Frank deliberately obstructing the investigation. Several leads my adoptive father had tracked down were maliciously cut off. Over the years, my journey to find my biological family has been quite bumpy. Under my adoptive father's influence all these years, I've also become a warrior in the criminal investigation system. Half a year ago, my adoptive father was transferred to this city and saw my mother's first televised interview appearance. He noticed the resemblance between us and, after careful investigation, speculated that we might be mother and daughter. He secretly arranged for my mother's DNA to be collected and compared with mine, which confirmed his earlier suspicion. At the time, a cultural relic smuggling case he was investigating turned out to have financial ties to my mother's company. To avoid alerting the suspects, he and the task force devised a meticulous plan, which I then carried out undercover. My photo was deliberately handed to Kevin by someone I arranged. First, pique Kevin's curiosity, then have him take me for DNA testing to verify. After confirming my identity, he naturally brought me home. Then, using the conflict between me and Heidi as an excuse to enter the company's inner circle, Frank and Heidi are both sharp individuals, so I can't blatantly parachute into the finance department. This led to the series of disturbances staged earlier. Remove the claws and fangs to lure the snake out of its hole. Everything is progressing quite smoothly. The investigation results indicate that the masterminds behind the artifact smuggling have been identified as Frank and Heidi. Having been dismissed on the spot by my mother, the two would surely sense something amiss and develop a desire for revenge. What we need to do is turn their scheme to our advantage and aim for a decisive strike. That day, just as I was getting off work, I was abducted with a hood over my head in the underground parking lot. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a dilapidated factory building. Frank, Heidi, and a bunch of thugs were glaring menacingly around me. Frank, Heidi, just say it. What do you want with me after kidnapping me? Heidi slapped me hard twice and even kicked me a couple of times. Humph. This is payback for your mom hitting me before. What do you want? Since you ruined our plans, of course we're going to make you pay for it. Sarah, I've had enough of you. Don't worry, I'll make sure the next few days are a living hell for you. I sneered. Frank, I'm your own daughter. How could you bring yourself to do this? Instead of enjoying the good life at home, you insist on doing these shady things. What's in it for you? Frank, however, looked disgusted. What biological daughter? The sight of your face reminds me of your detestable mother. I've had enough of her long ago. Let me tell you the truth. Frank, only recognize Heidi as my daughter in this lifetime. As for what's in it for me, of course, it's the satisfaction in my heart. Thinking about how I've been suppressed by your mother all these years makes me furious. The thought of trampling that high and mighty woman underfoot and tormenting her fills me with joy. As for you, we abandoned you back then, never expecting you'd actually find your way back. You must have some luck, but this time, you definitely won't be so fortunate. Once we get the ransom from your mother, we'll throw you into the sea to feed the fish, making sure you disappear from this earth completely, dreaming of taking the money and living a luxurious life abroad. Everyone present looked excited. I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for them. The command to move from my adoptive father came through my earpiece, seizing the moment when they weren't paying attention. I used a hidden razor blade to cut the ropes binding my wrists. A team of armed SWAT officers stormed in, apprehending Frank and his small-time accomplices. In a panic, Heidi grabbed me and held a knife to my throat, attempting to use me as a hostage. Unexpectedly, I flipped her over with a shoulder throw and pinned her to the ground. Heidi, I formally notify you that you're under arrest. Even as they were handcuffed and escorted away, Frank and Heidi still couldn't believe they had been caught. How is this possible? Sarah, how could you be a cop? You were sold back then. How could you possibly have had the chance to become a police officer among human traffickers? Watching them, I couldn't help but sneer. Maybe I was just born lucky. In this world today, the side that upholds justice will never lose. They were taken away in the vehicle. At that moment, a burly man enveloped me in a bear hug. Wow, my daughter is amazing. Really made me proud. Well done. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, I was jostled around, my head bobbing awkwardly, my face flushed with embarrassment. Dad, could you please restrain yourself a little? There are colleagues present. He kept vigorously kneading her apple cheek several times before finally stopping. Sweetheart, come on, Dad's taking you home. Frank and Heidi were sentenced to prison for multiple offenses. They had no idea about what the two of them had done before. Neither my mom nor Kevin knew. And neither they nor the company were implicated. As for me, although I share a blood relation with Frank, I grew up with my adoptive father and am also a victim in the case. My job wasn't affected either. To show gratitude to my adoptive father for raising and nurturing me, my mom didn't change my surname to hers along with my brother. This undercover operation achieved complete success, and the unit granted me a special 1-month vacation. My mom and my brother also took time off. And they took me on a nationwide tour, desperately trying to make up for all the lost companionship in one go. At night, we lay on the mountaintop gazing at the starry sky, and my brother asked me, Sarah, when are you planning to come back to the company and help your brother out? I'm almost overwhelmed with work now. Beside us, Mom was also looking at me with hopeful eyes. I couldn't help but laugh as I watched him, head down, furiously tapping his phone to reply to messages and go through procedures. Bro, you'll have to keep handling the responsibility of earning money to support the family. Just let me go out and make my own way. You don't want me to be buried in reports all day, getting dizzy and drained of energy, do you? Let me work on cases with my dad instead. That's what I really enjoy. He didn't insist further, ruffling my hair with a doting expression. All right. Then you go ahead and charge forward fearlessly. I'll hold down the fort for you from behind. You must promise me one condition. Remember to come home for dinner whenever you're not busy each week. Got it. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Mom. The sky above was dotted with countless stars. Tomorrow would surely be a fine day. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.